Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org with a video tutorial for the new Boston. In this video we are taking the example of scroll top and we're using this to allow us to disable a checkbox. In this case I have a text area here with just some fake Latin terms and conditions in. I've sort of seen this effect listed on a few websites where you have to scroll to the bottom of a text area in order for a particular checkbox to be enabled to actually agree to these terms and conditions. At the moment this checkbox is disabled and I'm clicking on it at the moment and I can't actually check it. So essentially what I have to do is scroll all the way to the bottom for this checkbox to become enabled. Then I can say, you know, continue with registration or however this works in this case. This is obviously just an example. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see that when I do reach the bottom, this checkbox now becomes available and I can go ahead and click on it. Now we're going to be using the scroll top function in jQuery to do this, but we're going to need to, you know, make some additional calculations because it's not as easy as it appears. Because we've styled this particular text area at a certain height, we can't just return the height and use scroll top to actually calculate this. We're going to need to do some additional calculation. So we'll go back to our text editor, or go over to our text editor and start writing this out. Okay, so we're over to our text editor. We are in index.php, which just literally has this text area here with the text inside, and then underneath we've got a checkbox with the ID of agree. The text area ID is terms, so we can use these to both reference each one, and yeah, that's it really. We've just got a checkbox. We've also got an ext.js file, which just is essentially an external JavaScript file. We've also included style.css to style this text area. Let's just take a look at style.css. All I've done is given it a height here and a width here, so that just makes it look like you saw when I showed you the example. And obviously, yeah, like I said, we have ext.js, which is our external JavaScript file. So inside our external JavaScript file, we want to go ahead and initially disable the checkbox. Sorry, first of all. If we go over to our browser, you can see that at the moment it's enabled by default, and nothing's really happening here in terms of functionality. So the first thing we want to go ahead and do is actually disable this. I'm going to do this after the document is ready, so I'm going to use document.ready, and inside create the function of the code that I'm going to run once the DOM is available. So the first thing we want to do is set an attribute to this agree checkbox to disable it. So all we do is we say reference this with hash and agree, so we're using a ID selector, and we just want to set an attribute of this, and that attribute is disabled, and the value of that is disabled. So when we go and return to our browser and refresh, this checkbox has been automatically disabled and we can't do anything, and obviously still we don't have any functionality here. Okay, so now what we want to go ahead and do is create an event handler for when this text area has a scroll event, i.e. when we pull the scroll bar down or back up again. So when we do scroll, we want to then, you know, make some calculations, get some heights and everything, and then obviously perform an if statement to remove the attribute disabled if it's at the correct height. So let's go ahead and select terms, which is our text area, obviously over here, our ID of terms, and we want to go ahead and append the scroll event handler to this. Now inside here we create another function, and all the code inside of here will be that is run when we actually perform a scroll, so when we scroll up or down. So let's go ahead and create some variables and set some values to this, and then I'll explain about a bit about how it works. So the first one is the text area height, and this is equal to obviously our terms, or we could just say this because we've already selected the terms here. So this will be this, and then afterwards array key 0, and then dot scroll height. Now let's go ahead and alert this to the user. In fact, no, that's probably not a good idea. Let's go ahead and create a temporary div just down here, just so we can get some information fed back to us. So I'm just going to call this div feedback. So we want to say, selecting feedback, apply the text to this as text area underscore height. So we'll be constantly feeding back this value. So when we scroll down, you can see that it's just literally given us a height, which is 724. Now this obviously doesn't match the value that we have in style.css, but this is the height of the entire inside, so the scrollable area essentially. But this still is inaccurate because we need to go ahead and remove or minus the inner height, and that essentially means that it will match up to the correct value.